Okay, screen this is around now. Presentation is presentation visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mark ID. Okay, is presentation visible now? Presentation display come?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today we will start our presentation. So today's topic is DNA replication.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So DNA replication topic is there. So yesterday already we saw something about the cell cycle and how this chromosome have to replicate itself. And during this replication process, for making one chromosome to two chromosomes, we will be needing this DNA replication even during the synthesis phase of the cell cycle. So in this index, we are going to see cell cycle, DNA replication, and four major stages of replication like initiation, unwinding, primer synthesis, elongation, and then we will talk something about the chromosomal shortening, the telomerase we will talk about. So in yesterday's lecture, we saw cell cycle. Cell cycle consists of G1 phase, S phase, G2 phase, and then mitosis. These are the four major stages of the cell cycle. Out of these, this G1 phase, S phase, and G2 phase is referred to as a interphase. Okay, so this one is interphase, and after this one, that is a mitosis. And in this interphase, this S phase is the phase at which the DNA replication occurs. And then in this mitosis phase, there are again four subphases: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and the telophase. So these are the phases of the cell cycle. And we are more interested in this S phase, DNA replication. So yesterday we saw this image DNA replication. So this one is a DNA replication. So this one is a one strand of the DNA. This one is another strand of the DNA. So this one is a double helical structure of the DNA. So one strand, two strand. So one strand goes like this. So this strand, it is going like this. Okay. So this strand is there and another strand is there. And our motto is the one DNA strand is there, and from one double-stranded DNA, we want to make the two double-stranded DNA. So how will we make it? So for making it, we will need the RNA primer. So this replication port has to open. So one strand will be called as a lagging strand, and other will be the leading strand. So lagging strand means the direction of replication will be from the, this will be called as a fork, from this fork to the outside, and another is a leading strand. The fork direction will be from outside to inside. So 5' direction to 3', and this direction again 5' to 3', but it will be the Okazaki fragment on the lagging strand. So that is why these Okazaki fragments are present in the lagging strand. And so this DNA is there. That is a double stranded bonded with the hydrogen bond. Now we want to open it. So if we want to open this DNA, double stranded DNA, we want one enzyme. So this helicase enzyme is there. So this helicase enzyme will come and it will open this strand, right? So that is the function of this helicase enzyme to strip open this two DNA strands. So that is the function of this helicase enzyme. Then topoisomerase. So what happens is that once we open this DNA, double-stranded DNA, what happens at the back end? They twist on itself. we don't want that twist to happen in the DNA. Otherwise, further replication process may get hampered. For that purpose, we have topoisomerase enzyme, which will be removing this twist. So it will help us in the unwinding of the DNA. Next, after RNA primer adding with the help of the primase enzyme, we will need the DNA polymerase. So this primase is adding RNA primer. This RNA primer it is adding. This polymerase enzymes, it will be helping to add the additional nucleotide on the RNA primer, right? So this additional nucleotide will go and adding in the leading strand. So for example, this leading strand now adding the additional nucleotide. Sometime what happens after this on the lagging strand or on the leading strand, this RNA primer remains, and we want to get rid of this RNA primer. So we have again RNase H enzyme which will remove this RNA, and then we will need DNA polymerase 1 enzyme to fill in the gap. So that will fill the gap, and again we will be needing the DNA ligase enzyme or joining the nicks in the DNA. Whenever DNA is a single stranded, so this one is a DNA and now it has become single stranded, it contains this single stranded binding protein. So this one is a single stranded binding protein. Once DNA has zip open, so it has opened now, so this DNA ideally it will take some single stranded binding protein and it will bind them. So what happens is that because of this single stranded binding protein, the single stranded DNA remain single stranded. It won't join with the other DNA strands. So that is the replication fork. So basically the double stranded DNA, the replication fork is forming because of this helicase. Topoisomerase is removing the extra supercoiling on each other. RNA primer is adding the small RNA primer, 10 base pair, for example, and then on that RNA primer, we are adding the nucleotides and we are getting the double stranded. So now we started with the one DNA. Now we have this one DNA, and this one is a second DNA. So that is the replication fork event. So whenever we are dealing with the DNA replication, we are trying to describe all the events which are happening in the DNA replication process. So this one is a DNA replication in nutshell. So next, during DNA replication, we need some divalent metal cations also. So this one is our divalent metal cations. So these are divalent metal cations are there. So what happens is that if you know DNA polymerase and polymerase chain reaction, we will be needing magnesium in that reaction. So why this magnesium is needed? Magnesium is needed in the given reaction, because this divalent cation will help in the holding of this DNTP, deoxynucleotide triphosphate. And as you know, when we say DNA, we are synthesizing DNA. Basically, DNA is a polymer of nucleotides. So these deoxynucleotides we want to join together. It has to be fixed in the particular position. So that is why we have this divalent metal cation. So likewise, we have this enzyme O helix, tyrosine, pi bond. These are also helping in the stabilizing this deoxynucleotide in its position with the 3' OH of the strand. So do mistakes happen when we do DNA replication? So it does happen. The DNA polymerase by itself is made about 1 mistake per 10⁵ pairs synthesized. So if you are synthesizing around 1 lakh base pairs, in that one you will find 1 mistake. So that is the 1 mistake it makes in the 10⁵. Most of the mistakes are pyrimidine to pyrimidine or the purines to purine mistakes. That is, it puts G instead of A, or it puts C instead of T, or vice versa. Likewise, due to the something called tautomer formations. So why mistake happen? So many time explanation is that there is a phenomenon known as a tautomer formation in this DNA replication event. That tautomers allow the mispairing. So this mispairing can happen, and then basically that is mispairing is a temporary, but it may slow down the subsequent synthesis. So and this tautomer is a phenomenon in the DNA in which you want to insert, for example, G, but you are inserting A, or you want to insert C, but you are inserting T. In that case, that is a mistake, and the mistake is happening because of this tautomer formation. So this is a tautomers. So this is a tautomer. This is a, for example, this one is a C, and this one is a C. So this cytosine can be in the amino form or immuno form. So amino or immuno form. So if it is in the immuno form, we can see here ADA is written. So A is an acceptor, D is a donor, E is an acceptor. Likewise, if you are changing it to the tautomer formation, it changes to acceptor D. So this pattern changes. Basically, the tautomer changes this pattern, and what happens is that ideally, for example, this G is there. This G has to bind with this C molecule. Okay, this G has to bind with this C molecule. Guanosine has to bind with the cytosine molecule. But what happens? This is a keto form. So this form is there. DDA form is there. If DDA form is there, then G will bind with the C. But enol form, if this G guanosine undergoes the enol form, then it changes to DAA. So what happens? Because this sequence has changed, instead of binding with this C molecule, it will bind with this T molecule. So guanosine is binding with the T, which is a mistake, and it causes the mistakes in the replication process, right? So that is a tautomer formation. And why these mistakes happen? Why DDA to DAA causes the enol, that is keto to enol conformation change in the guanosine to the enol conformation DAA causes the mistake, because donor acceptor is the basically this guanosine and cytosine, it is forming 3 hydrogen bonds with each other. If these 3 hydrogen bonds has to be formed, so if this guanosine has a donor and acceptor, so then only this bond will form correctly. Otherwise, if instead of donor acceptor, if you have donor acceptor, in that case thymine will form the bond with each other, and that will be the mistake. That is a tautomer formation in nutshell. So what happens is that we have this 5' end of the DNA, we have 3' end of the DNA, and DNA replication is proceeding in the 5' to 3' direction. So this direction it is proceeding. So here we are going to add one nucleotide here. So here T is there. So G has bonded with the T, which is a mistake. So this is a mistake. G shouldn't bind with the T. So what happens when mistakes happen in our DNA replication process? So there is again a proofreading function of exonuclease, that is a 3' to 5'. Normally what happens, this goes from 5' to 3' direction, but when enzyme is there, exonuclease activity proofreading, what it does, it will say, okay, mistake has happened here, let's go backward. So it is correcting its mistake, it is going backward. So it is acting in this direction, it is removing this G. So this exonuclease proofreading activity it has removed in G. So proofreading activity is basically, for example, you are writing some documents of some essay competition, you are writing some how our college is a very good college and something like that. But by mistake, instead of nice, you have written some word which is irrelevant in that location. So what happens? You write, then you go back again and you correct that mistake. That is a proofreading function. So this exonuclease does that function. It will go back and it will correct that thing, and it will say, okay, now that's okay. DNA polymerase can come again and it will start synthesizing again. So that is a proofreading function. So proofreading function, for example, this one is a DNA, and this DNA exonuclease is present. So DNA is a right-handed conformation we usually show. So DNA polymerase is there. So usually DNA polymerase we show by right-handed conformation. And what happens is that, for example, DNA is there, and this RNA is this DNA is there, and this is a mistake. For example, this blue end is a mistake. So this DNA will turn on itself. It will go and this exonuclease activity of this hand. So this mistake, it will turn inside on the palm of the hand. So this DNA will come here, exonuclease will cut it out, and again this 3' OH will be presented at the correct position of the DNA polymerase. So that's why the DNA polymerase activity can again go forward, and it will correct the add correct bases. Okay. Generally, DNA proofreading exonuclease removes the mismatch. So this is a mechanism. One mistake in 10⁻⁷ base pair can be found when you are utilizing this proofreading activity. And if you want, generally we want a lesser mistake than this. We want, for example, 1 in 10⁻⁻10 mistake base pair mistake. So if you want to achieve that, we have repair pathway that reduces the mistakes. So next lecture we will be seeing the repair pathways. Okay, so this is how the proofreading is being done. So how DNA mistakes are being corrected. So one mistake is there, how it will go to the exonuclease side of the DNA polymerase, how it will remove the this nucleotide it will remove, and how it will be presented again to the correct conformation. So this DNA replication function is to duplicate the cell genome. Genome is a blueprint of the cellular function. Mistakes in DNA replication. So what happened is because of mistake, the mistake can enhance our survival or it can decrease our adaptability. So sometimes some organisms, they have mutation in themselves that helps them survive in the given environment. Or sometimes the mistake happens in our particular skin cells, for example, and because of those mistakes, what happens is that our genome get changed, and because of the change in the genome, we will get some mutations. We will get some mutations in our genome. So that is a mutations we can get. So that is a mistakes in the DNA can enhance the survival, or it can lessen the adaptability. Between 100 to 1000 base pair per second can be added. Okay, so during the DNA replication process, we can add the 100 to 1000 base pair. Okay, why we are saying base pairs, not bases? Because DNA is a double stranded, so that is why we are calling it as a base pair. And if we are starting the replication process, so this is a polymerase enzyme, it has come and bound with this strand. Now it is going and adding this base pairs on this strand, complementary base pair. So in 1 second it can add 100 to 1000 base pairs. Every base pair must be replicated in the genome. Okay, so that should be very careful event. And DNA replication should may make the mistake 1 in 10⁻⁻10 base pair. Okay, so overall it is very out of 10⁻⁻10 means 10⁻⁻10 means after 1 you have to give 10 zeros. Okay, so 1 in 100 is 1 in 10⁻⁻2. Likewise, 1 in 10 means 10 0 after 1. Okay, so that is only one mistake you have to make in 10⁻⁻10 base pairs. Cancer treatment. So sometimes what happens, people want to exploit this phenomenon for the treatment purpose. So many drugs we will be using in your clinical medicine. For example, some dog has a cancer and you want to treat it. So what will be the choice of treatment? In that case, you may resort to the DNA replication inhibitor. So once DNA replication is inhibited in particular cancer cell, you may suppress the this multiplicative power of these cells, and cancer may get suppressed. So that is a treatment aspect also is there for this DNA replication events. The major group contain the base pair specific information. So DNA already we have seen it contains major group, minor group. Major group is the base pair specific information. Minor group contain the base pair non-specific information. Molecular machineries of the DNA replication. Only way to make a new cell is by division of pre-existing cell. Okay, so already in cell cycle we have seen that we want to make new cell, we should have something there, so it may make something else. DNA carries the genetic information of each cell. Each time cell divides, all of its DNA must be copied faithfully, so that copy of this information can be passed on to the daughter cell. So the DNA replication has to be very faithful event, right? we don't want our DNA to get replicated. So in the future generation, the progeny shouldn't have this mutation, or if cow is there, the future calves shouldn't have mutation in that one. So that is a faithful replication should be there. Replication involves use of existing strand of DNA as a template for synthesis of new strand, identical strand. Okay, so we already saw that is replication for the two strands separate. One strand should be there, and on this strand, the other strand should be synthesized. This process is called as a DNA replication. So DNA replication is a semi-conservative process. What is semi-conservative? So this one is a double-stranded DNA, and this one is shown in the blue color. Okay, this one is a blue, this one is a blue, and now this is a daughter strand, one strand. This is the second daughter strand, and one strand is a blue, other strand is a yellow. So what does it mean? It means DNA replication is a semi-conservative event. So this one is a double-stranded DNA. Now it has separated on this strand. This one is a parental strand, new strand. So parental strand is blue, and on this strand, new strand we are synthesizing, that is a yellow in color. Likewise, this strand is there. This is a blue in color, and this yellow strand we are synthesizing on it. So that is a one parent, one daughter strand. So DNA replication process is a semi-conservative replication DNA replication process. So each next generation, one parental strand will be there, and on this parental strand, on each parental strand, these new daughter strands will be synthesized. So that is the semi-conservative mode of the DNA replication. So major events of the DNA replication. So DNA replication mainly consists initiation, unwinding. So initiation means some initiator protein has to bind at the origin of replication. The unwinding has to be done, for example, with the helicase. Primer synthesis has to be made, for example, this RNA primase. So this helicase is doing this unwinding. The topoisomerase also helping to remove the supercoils. This primer synthesis is being made by this primase enzyme. It is adding this primase enzyme and as DNA get replicated, this single-stranded DNA is bonded with this single-stranded binding protein. Okay, so these primers on each strands we are adding. So one strand we are calling as a lagging strand, and another strand we are calling it as a leading strand. So leading strand, lagging strand. Why we are calling it as a leading and lagging strand? So leading strand, if this replication is happening, it's like leading strand is coming and going in the direction of the movement of this replication fork movement. All right. So this strand is going in inward direction. So this strand is opening, and it already has the single-stranded DNA available for this one. But what happens in the and this direction is a 5' to 3'. But what happened in that direction? In that direction, this direction of the DNA changes. So we will need short fragment of the primers in the lagging strand, and this lagging strand will help to synthesize the short DNA fragment, depending on whether it is eukaryotic or the prokaryotic, and then this replication process can go forward, right? So, and during this process, we will need DNA polymerase. So this is a DNA polymerase, and DNA polymerase has this clamp, sliding clamps, and all these things. This will be added on this one, and this elongation is a process in which once replication process begins, this the nucleotides will go on adding on the strands available on this one, right? So that is elongation, initiation, and unwinding. Initiator protein binds. So that was the previous figure was overall what we are going to discuss, right? So here, for example, we are discussing initiation and unwinding event. Initiator protein binds at the replication origin. Base pair sequence known as a ORIC. So this is a DNA, and for example, this is a origin of replication. So at this location, this initiator protein bind, and this side we call as a ORIC, that is origin of replication. So DNA replication doesn't happen at the random location. It will need the specific base pair information, and at this location only, this initiator protein will bind and it will initiate the DNA replication. So next, DNA helicase are responsible for breaking of the hydrogen bonds. So one strand and two strands, they have hydrogen bonds in between them. This DNA helicase is coming, and this DNA helicase is breaking these bands open, so that is a breaking of hydrogen bonds. The unwinding of DNA double helix into single and to single-stranded DNA. Okay, so DNA helicase is unwinding our DNA into the single-stranded DNA. So now this DNA has become single-stranded, and on each DNA, again, this single-stranded binding proteins attached on this one. So it will remain single-stranded for the processing. Likewise, we have topoisomerase, which reduces some of the torsion strain caused by the unwinding of the DNA helix. So once DNA unwind, on the back end of the DNA, some torsion strain happen. DNA will try to coil on itself. So we want to remove that torsion. To remove that torsion, we have topoisomerase enzyme, which will reducing the reduce some of the torsion strain caused by the unwinding of the double helix. So this one we were discussing. This is a DNA. So DNA has a two direction, 5' to 5', 3', and the opposite strand complementary is the again this 3' to 5'. Okay. So this is a direction. This one is a replication origin. So what happens is that once we know that replication has to bind, protein replication initiator protein will bind here, and this replication bubble will form. Okay. So this DNA will form bubble like this, and then this replication port. So basically we were talking replication port like this, but the DNA, because it is a double stranded, it may go in both direction. So this one is a one replication port, and this one is a second replication port. So that is a replication port formation or replication bubble formation during the replication origin. So this one is a, for example, multiple origin of replication. If it is a eukaryotic cell, we will find that our genome is very large. We will need multiple replication bubbles. We want to start our site of replication at multiple sites. In contrast, if it is a bacteria, it may have one origin of replication, because it contains very small genome and circular genome, and it will one may be enough. But in our case, eukaryotic cell, we will need many replication bubbles, and it will open up the chromosome. So this one is one bubble, two bubble, three bubble. So DNA is opening. So now double stranded, one strand, two strand is forming. Likewise, overall one DNA, double stranded DNA, we are getting two double stranded DNA. So that is help of multiple replication bubbles. So here is the thing, we have this unwinding. So this one is a DNA helicase. For example, this one is the origin of replication, and this yellow color is the DNA helicase. It is breaking the hydrogen bond between the two strands, and it is allowing the DNA to unwind into two strands at the replication ports. So these two strands are getting separated from each other. So this strand and this strand is getting separated, and this topoisomerase enzyme is there, which is a protein that binds to a double helix ahead of the replication port and reduce the strains counts on the double helix. So that already we discussed that at the back end torsion is happening, and we want to remove that torsion. So that is why we have this topoisomerase, and this single-stranded binding, binding protein. So small yellow this circular protein, it is binding with this single-stranded. So it is preventing this strand to join each other. We don't want single strand to join each other. We want single strand to make complementary DNA on it, with the help of the DNA polymerase. So it should get some time. So the single stranded binding protein helps during this process, right? So that is a DNA unwinding. Okay. So how origin is happening, how DNA helicase is playing its role, how topoisomerase is playing role, and how single stranded binding protein SSB we call all in capital letters playing its role, and how they stabilize the these separated strands. Location at which DNA synthesis begins to unwind into two single strands is called as the origin of replication. When two strands unwind, replication proceeds around two strands at the same time but in opposite direction. So already we saw it is processing in this direction also and this direction also. And the origin at which it is happening, we call it as the origin of replication. So that is basically forming the replication ports. Okay, so this replication ports is forming. It is moving in this direction also of the replication bubble. primer synthesis event. Now, primer synthesis marks the beginning of actual synthesis of DNA molecules. Now, what happens is that we have DNA, we have make the DNA replication bubbles. Okay, that replication port has been formed. So right now you consider one replication, one side replication. So this has formed. Okay, with the helical enzyme. Now what? Now we need a primer synthesis on this strand. So primer synthesis marks the beginning of actual synthesis of the new DNA molecule. So what happens is that this primer will come and it will bind the separated DNA molecule. That primer is usually 10 to 12 bases, and it is RNA primer. So this RNA polymerase enzyme primase. So primase is basically RNA polymerase enzyme, which are the small primers on this separated single-stranded DNA, and it will synthesize the RNA on this one, and this RNA will help in adding the DNA deoxyribonucleotides on this molecule, right? So DNA polymerase is an enzyme responsible for actual addition of the nucleotide to the new DNA strand. Can only add the deoxyribonucleotide to 3' OH group of existing chain and cannot begin de novo synthesis. So why we need RNA primer? Because this DNA polymerase enzyme, what we have, it doesn't add de novo. It will always need 3' OH of existing chain, 3' hydroxyl group of existing chain. So this one is a single strand DNA, and we want OH group here. So how this OH group will come? So if our primase is there, primase will add this RNA molecule here. So OH group will be available. So on this OH group, we can add the deoxyribonucleotides in the further. So that is how it may add the, it will help facilitate the DNA replication process. Primase can only add the ribonucleotides de novo. After elongation is complete, primase is removed and replaced with the DNA nucleotides. So when we say DNA molecules, it only should have DNA, but now we are talking about that there is a primase enzyme, it is adding RNA, and this RNA molecule is helping in the RNA primer formation. So this RNA does present in the during the replication process, but what happens is that after elongation is complete, this RNA ZH enzyme is there, which will be removing this primer. So this primer is removed at the end of the elongation. So how this primer is added? So we have this DNA template 5' to 3' end, and now with this RNA primer strand is added with the help of the RNA primers. And now this is a 3' OH chain. So this is a ribose sugar of ribonucleotide, and this is OH. And on this OH we have to add this deoxy OH. Okay, so this one is a ribonucleotide. OH is present at the second carbon position of the pentose sugar, and this one is a deoxy. OH doesn't present. So this DNTP is added on this one. So this bonds get broken, this phosphorized, and it joins with 5' CH2 phosphorus will bind with this 3' OH group of this existing RNA primer strand. So basically, this one is a DNA, double-stranded DNA. It is getting separated into the 2 strand, and now we want to synthesize strand in this direction. So basically, this one is the RNA primer first we need, and then this deoxyribonucleotide will go and adding to this existing strand. Now we have our double-stranded DNA ready. And what happened at the end of replication? This RNA it has to get removed with the RNase ZH enzyme. So that is the process. Elongation involves addition of the nucleotide to the new DNA strand. Begins after the primer has begun. So primer has added. Now this during elongation process, new DNTP can be added. Synthesis of growing strand involves adding the nucleotides one by one in the exact order specified by the original strand. So if this is a strand, we just have to add the complementary nucleotide. If A is there, we have to add G here. If T is there, we have to add complementary to this one. If here T, here complementary to this one. So complementary. If A is there, we have to add T. A pairs with T, so double band. C pairs with G, so triple band. So likewise, we have to add only complementary bases in the specific order. Adenine always pairs with thymine and cytosine always pairs with the guanine. If the original strand is the AGCT, the new strand, what will be the new strand? So this one is AGCT. So new strand complementary to A will be the T, complementary to G will be the C, complementary to C will be the G, complementary to T will be the A. So there that will be the new strand after this one, right? So this one is there, so that is how we make complementary strands, right? Exact copy, we don't make mistake in this process. So elongation, DNA always synthesized in 5' to 3' direction, means that nucleotide are only added to the 3' end of bromine chain. Okay, so we can only add the nucleotide to 3' end. We cannot add nucleotide to the 5' end. So that is an elongation process. The 5' phosphate of the newly added nucleotide binds with the 3' OH of the last nucleotide of the bromine chain. Okay, so here already we have seen this one is a 3' OH of previous RNA, and now on this one, this nucleotide can be added. So that is 3' phosphate of the new nucleotide has to bind with the 3' OH of the last nucleotide of the bromine chain. DNA polymerase work fast, averaging 50 bases a second in the human cell and up to 20 times faster in the E. coli. So you can see that if in human cell 50 bases per second has to added out, 20 times of the 50 bases in E. coli, that process has to be very accurate. So what happens is that we have this proofreading function of the DNA polymerase. It ensures that this DNA polymerase reactions happen with the precision. It doesn't make much mistakes, so that is a function. And so DNA replication means DNA polymerase always we talk, so it catalyze the DNA synthesis. DNA polymerase catalyze the DNA synthesis, and this Arthur Kornberg is the person who discovered this DNA polymerase enzyme, and he is only who discovered that on one nucleotide, the other nucleotides are growing and joining together, and how it is joining. So he explained that one. So this one is a deoxyribose sugar. This one is a base. These are the 3 phosphate groups, and new DNA is synthesized from the deoxyribonucleotides. So these are our recipe for our soup, right? So we want to make DNA, and this one is our recipe. This deoxyribonucleosides triphosphate. So we have template strand. So this one is a parent strand. New strand is there. We are synthesizing this strand. Template strand, it is a 5' to 3' direction. Other will be in the complementary 5' to 3' direction. As a replication, in the replication, 3' OH group of last nucleotide on the strand attacks the 5' phosphate group of incoming DNTP. So this one is an incoming DNTP. It has a 5' OH, and what happens is that this strand's last OH group attack to this one, and it will help in the joining like this. Okay, so 2 phosphates are removed in this process, and next the phosphodiester bond formed between this one. So this is a phosphodiester bond formed between 2 nucleotides. So existing strand is there. On existing strand, we have added extra deoxyribonucleotide, and the phosphate ions are released. These ions are released. So basically, we have this DNA molecules strands, and on this one, we are going and adding the ribonucleotides, and it will help in the elongating these strands. Okay, so that was the function, and this function is catalyzed by DNA polymerase. DNA polymerase 3 does most of the elongation work, adding the nucleotides one by one to 3' end of the new and growing strand. Okay, so at the 3' end it adds nucleotide. DNA polymerase 1 and RNase H are responsible for removing the RNA primer after the DNA polymerase 3 has begun its work and replacing it with the DNA nucleotides. So previously we have discussed that RNA primer is there. RNA primer has to be removed. So this one is the RNase H after elongation process. This RNase H removes that RNA primer. So this RNA primer removes. and in the place of that one, this DNA polymerase 1. Instead of 3, then we have DNA polymerase 1, which will add the dNTP instead of NTPs. Okay, so DNA polymerase 1 does this function, and what happens is that it leaves some nick between this DNA. Between the sections of the DNA that was formerly primer and elongated section, and this nicks, for example, so RNA has removed the DNA polymerase 1 has added this dNTP, and now this nicks has remained. So this nick we have to seal. How to seal the nick? Again, we have the other enzyme DNA ligase. It will come and it will ligate that nick. So this DNA ligase, it will join this nick. Okay, nick means we have small gap on our DNA during this process. So this DNA ligase does that function. It seals the nick. DNA polymerase only moves in one direction. After primer is synthesized on a strand of DNA and DNA unwind, synthesis and elongation can proceed only in one direction. Okay, so directionality already we have seen. The DNA polymerase can only add 3' end and 5' end of the primer remain unaltered. Again, same information. Consequently, the synthesis proceeds immediately only around the leading strand. Okay, so we have seen that leading strand is there, which we call as a continuous strand, and lagging strand is there, in which the gap this replication process happens in the 5' direction of the primer. That is a lagging strand, and this replication process is a discontinuous replication. We have to make many lagging strands Okazaki fragments in this process. Double helix has to unwind a bit before synthesis of another primer can be initiated further on the lagging strand. So synthesis can occur from 3' end of a new primer. Next, double strand unwind a bit more, and then another spurt of replication process. Result is a replication fork. Replication along the lagging strand can only proceed in a discontinuous. Okay, so this unwinding can happen bit, and then this fork, this strand will unwind, and then again this discontinuous process happen, DNA strand replication. So replication of a leading DNA strand is a continuous, and lagging is a discontinuous. So this is what we're talking about. So this is a direction of unwinding of replication. So this one is a template strand. This one is a template strand. Now it is going in this direction. It is going in the other direction. So one is a upper strand. DNA process continuously in a 5' to 3'. So this strand is going in a 5' to 3' direction. Okay, it is a continuous direction. But lower strand, DNA synthesis begin at the fork. So here synthesis begin. Fork was here, so synthesis begin here. But what happened? The fork has traveled further again. So again we will need another RNA primer here. It has to synthesis like this. So that is the direction of the fork. Based on the direction of the fork, this will happen. If upper strand is there and it is in the 5' to 3' direction, and its direction, if it is the same as the unwinding direction, so this is the unwinding direction 5' to 3', then it is a continuous strand, the leading strand. It is in the opposite direction to the replication fork movement. So this direction is the opposite to replication fork movement direction. So this one is a discontinuous process. Okay, this process is a discontinuous, and that is a lagging strand synthesis in this process. Okay, so that is why this DNA can go up continuously. It doesn't have any hindrance, but lower strand DNA synthesis again start at the lower strand. Each time process away from the replication until it run out of the template. Okay, so how many discontinuous strands can be formed? So it will form till here. If replication we want to happen till here at the end. So here, it will go and adding in this direction. This will add first these. So it will be the discontinuous Okazaki fragments. So upper is a leading or continuous DNA synthesis. This one is a lagging strand or discontinuous DNA synthesis. DNA synthesis on a lagging strand is a discontinuous. So this process in the lower strand is a discontinuous, we call. So this one. So this is a discontinuous process, and DNA short fragment of the DNA produced in the discontinuous synthesis. We call this fragment as a Okazaki. So this Reiji Okazaki was a scientist who discovered Okazaki fragments. That it happens like this. So that is why we, in honor of this, the name was given Okazaki fragments. So fragments of newly synthesized DNA along lignocide we call as a Okazaki fragment. So this is Reiji Okazaki scientist. We have discovered that one. That the Okazaki fragments of the bacterial DNA can be 1000 to 2000 nucleotide long, whereas in eukaryotes, this Okazaki fragment can be 100 to 200 nucleotides long. So, what are the challenges in the replication? The challenges in the eukaryotic replications are that eukaryotic replications can contain the many replication origin. Or replication origin of bacteria, ORIC vary in length from 200 to 1000 base pair and sequence except along the closely related organism. Okay, so ORIC sequence can be 200 to 1000 base pair. All bacteria nonetheless have single origin of replication. So that was that we have discussed. In eukaryotes, DNA replication is compacted by the way it around the proteins called as histones. So that is why in the last lecture we have seen the histone, how it make this nucleosome and how what is the linker site and all those things. So that histones is important and if DNA is too much compacted, this replication won't happen. So it should have sufficient the DNA which has not been compacted by the histones for replication process to begin. So also, whereas bacterial chromosomes are circular and eukaryotic chromosomes are linear, that also has its own problems. So the DNA replication, during circular DNA replication, excised primer are radially replaced by the nucleotides, leaving no gaps in the newly synthesized DNA. So the sized primers are replaced with the nucleotides and it doesn't leave any gap during the circular this one. But if DNA replication is a linear, that is small gaps are remaining at the end of the chromosome. So at the end of the chromosome, some small gap are remaining because of lack of OH group for replacement of nucleotide. So that is why there is a phenomenon called as a telomere shortening. Every time our cell replicate, our chromosome gets shortened. That phenomenon was there, and there are the cells way of sorting out this problem. We call that problem addressed by the telomeres at the end of the chromosome. Okay, if there is no way to fill the gap, the DNA molecule will become shorter each every generation. So next time, if cow is there, the its calf will have the less genome content than the cow. So every time genome is replicated, chromosome becomes shorter, and basically it causes the many problems because we know that genome is our basic elements which determine all our body functions. So to address that one, cell has its way called as the telomeres at the end of the linear chromosome, which has several properties that prevent this. DNA replications occur in the S phase of the cell division that already we saw. In E. coli, this means that entire genome is replicated in 40 minutes at the pace of the 1000 nucleotide per second. In eukaryotes, this pace is slower, about 40 nucleotides per second. The coordination of protein complexes required for the steps of replication. So this one is a DNA polymerase. So this orange color. So this is a DNA polymerase, and we are adding the nucleotides on this time basically. So this one is a base pairing should happen. So this DNTP should come, the TA should come and it should form the double bond here. And during this process of pyrophosphatase should remove the phosphate. So this is the action of the DNA polymerase. Already these things we have seen. This is a DNA polymerase. This is a template. It is binding with this DNA polymerase enzyme. And now it has some sites. On these sites, some cavities are there, and on this cavity, this T molecule is binding with this A, and that is how it is facilitating the proper base pairing. So we call as a finger domain goes around the DNTP. So these are our finger. So we imagine that the scientists who X-ray crystallography and this DNA polymerase, they imagine this DNA structure or DNA polymerase. Basically, it is like this structure, but they imagine it like hands. So these are the fingers. So this is a finger, and this is a thumb, and this is This is the palm of that DNA polymerase, and these are the fingers they imagine. Okay, so this is a DNA polymerase structure. They are calling it as a like that. So finger domain goes around the DNTP. So this one is at these fingers here. This new DNTP are being added. O helix, alpha helix, tyrosine from the pi-pi bond. So here this tyrosine and this pi-pi bond, lysine arginine binds with triphosphate. So basically this tyrosine, lysine, arginine, these are the part of this DNA polymerase enzyme. So how DNA knows that correct base pairing is there for DNA polymerase? It monitors this distance, right? So this strand is there, this strand is there, and it say whether this distance is correct or not. So it will go, it will take this sliding for this one, for example, sliding action. So it knows that whether this distance is correct or it is a short or it is more. So based on that, 80 distance is there, means this length will remain same. GC is there, it will remain same. Otherwise, it may get disturbed. Okay. So major group. So major group contain this conformation. So acceptor, donor. Likewise, this is a conformation methylation EH, and minor group conformation is like this. It should get maintained. Processivity, the number of enzyme cycle per polymer binding. This is a property of the enzyme that acts on polymer. So how much enzyme cycles will happen per polymer binding? That is a processivity. So how much DNTP should be added to the primer? So once primer is added, how much DNTP we want to add to that primer template junction? That determines its processivity. RNA polymerase takes 1 second to bind a primer template junction in a solution that is diffusion control limit. So this strand is there and DNA polymerase has to bind, so it will take 1 second to bind. But once it is bind in 1 millisecond, it will add DNTP once bound. So for binding it takes time because of diffusion control reaction. But once it is bind within 1 millisecond, it can add the DNTP. So basically, this one is a new DNA. So this purple color, this this color DNA is a primer, orange, and this black is the original DNA. So original DNA replication is continuously happening in this one, and this continuous lagging strand is happening in this one. And this one is a unreplicated double-stranded DNA. So DNA primase is coming here, and it is adding the RNA primer here. DNA helicase is unwinding this strand. Already we have discussed these things just in detail, somewhat detail. And this DNA helicase basically requires a single strand. Okay, single strand. It acts around the single strand. So this strand is actor, and it goes and unwinding this DNA. So this junction it breaks and it opens up the two strands. So head-to-head repeats can happen. So this strand is replicated, so it repeats on itself, right? And once this single-stranded DNA is there, it may get binded with the single-stranded DNA binding protein. Eukaryotic has a replication protein A instead of this single-stranded binding protein. We call it as a replication protein A in the eukaryote. SSB bind non-specifically to the DNA. So this is a DNA, and this SSB is binding single-stranded binding. With high affinity, but if it is a double-stranded DNA, this SSB will bind with the lower affinity. So higher affinity and lower affinity, SSB bind non-specifically DNA. Okay, so any sequence of the DNA is there, it will bind with that DNA. So basically, that is a cooperative binding. Cooperative binding means one thing has bound, it will bound again. It is like your study. Once you have known one subject, you can understand other subject better. That is a cooperative learning, right? One thing you are learning something, and now you are learning more things based on that. Likewise, we have SSB bound to DNA, and now other next SSB bind, and we will have the higher affinity than the first. So yes, here also enzyme and this helicase subunit or enzyme DNA polymerase or SSB. It may have the same origin. It is a better better do the its job. So that is what we want. Helicase in bacteria. This is a sort of interesting difference. Helicase encircles the lagging strand template, and in nuclear, helicase encircle the leading strand. Okay, so these are the differences. In eukaryote, helicase will encircle single strand, only leading. And if it is in bacteria, it will be instead of the lagging strand period. Topoisomerase and optimal DNA structure has a 10.4 base pairs per turn of the helix. So one turn we have 10.4 base pairs. If it is overwound or positively supercoiled, overwound also we known as a positively supercoiled, it has a less than 10.4 base pair per turns of the helix. And if it is underwound or negatively supercoiled, so it has a greater than 10.4 base pair per turns of the helix. Topoisomerase, it will unwind the overwound DNA or rewind the underwound DNA. So that is a function of the topoisomerase. So this topoisomerase function is to remove the torsion, that is unwind the overwound DNA or rewind the underwound DNA. So this one is a topoisomerase enzyme. This one is a cutting here. Okay, this DNA is there. It is cutting. It is holding this DNA together. So likewise is there, and it will help pass one strand to the another strand, and again it will be refined post topoisomerase. So this events happen basically when we say the topoisomerase removes the torsion, means that it is binding here, is cutting the one strand here, for example, topoisomerase 1, and then it is allowing other strand to pass through it. So that is how it removes the torsion. Two types of topoisomerase. Type 1 topoisomerase break the one strand and pass one strand. Okay. If it is a type 1 topoisomerase, it will break the one strand and pass one strand through the break. And if it is a type 2, it will break the two strand and pass the two strands. Type 2 enzyme increases or decreases the linking number by 2. So this linking number can increase or decrease by the 2 if it is the topoisomerase 2. Okay. In bacteria, topoisomerase 2 enzyme, we have a gyrase. It removes the links in the DNA and unwinds and negatively supercoils the DNA. Okay, so in bacteria, this topoisomerase 2 we know is known as a gyrase, which removes the link in the DNA and underwound it and negatively supercoils the DNA. And it facilitates the DNA underwinding. DNA replication or transcription is facilitated, and it requires the ATP energy in form of ATP or NADH. So this is a double-stranded DNA. When we say that topoisomerase 2 is acting, it may cut these two strands and it will allow it to encircle with each other, or it will separately like this. So DNA topology, DNA helix itself can twist and turn into different conformation. So one way to describe the structure of the DNA double helix is by combination of the twist and turns. So when we say DNA is a double helix, it means it has a twist and it has a writhe. Okay. So combination of the twist and writhe can be used to show the DNA double helix structure topology, DNA topology. Some of which is called as a linking number. So linking number, if we are being asked what is linking number, it is a combination of the twist and the writhe. What is twist? Twist is described as a number of helical turns of one strand about the other, and that can be measured by counts of how many times a strand wraps around the other. So twist means one helical strand is there and other strand is wrapping around it. That is a twist. How many times it is wrapping around the other strand? That is a twist for that DNA strand. Writhe is described as how many times double helix crossover itself. So this double helix is there, and how many times it crosses over itself, that is a positive or negative depending on the orientation. So twist is related to one strand twisting around each other, and writhe means how much DNA helix crosses over itself. That is a positive or negative depending on orientation. Circular DNA has a writhe of -1 because it follows the right hand rule. So circular DNA, if it is there, it has a writhe of -1, and the upper strand travels left to right. Okay, so -10 means it will go left to right like this. Positively supercoiled DNA prevents the DNA denaturation. So this basically this DNA twisting and turning. So writhe and twist is important. If DNA is a positively supercoiled, it prevents DNA denaturation. So sometimes what happens, some organisms, they are like living in the bacteria, they are living in very hot water. They can survive in the hot water. How they survive, why their DNA doesn't get denatured? Because it has a positively supercoiled DNA, which is preventing this DNA denaturation. Okay, so that is conserving its genome. So twists and turns we were talking about, right? So this is a DNA topology. One strand is the red strand is there. Okay, it is traveling one time. Okay, now it is traveling two times. It is traveling three times. So twist, three twist, 1, 2, 3. Do it have right? No, it doesn't have right. And we saw twist plus right is a linking number. Relaxed DNA has a 10.4 base pair per turns. Right means now double-stranded DNA is there, and it is the turning bar on itself. So this is the right, and it is this is traveling. One strand is traveling on. So left to right, it is traveling -1 right. It is traveling right to left. It is right is a 1. Okay, so right can be given a negative or positive number. The model of the covalently closed circular DNA, ccDNA. So this is a closely covalently closed circular DNA. Overbound DNA has a less than 10.4 base pair per turn. If DNA is overbound, means that it has very tightly wrapped. It means that it has a more less than 10.4 base pair per turns, and then this increases the linking number. If DNA is a relaxed, it has a 10.4 base pair per turns. If DNA is underbound, it has a greater than 10.4 base pair per turns, and this linking number decreases. Okay, so you should remember if DNA is overbound, linking number is less than 10.4. This base pair are less than 10.4, linking number is greater. If it is underbound, this base pair are greater than 10.4, and linking number decreases as DNA gets underbound. Topoisomerase. Unwinding the overbound DNA increases the base pair per turn and decreases the linking number. Rewinding the underbound DNA decreases the base pair per turn and increases the linking number. Topoisomerase 1 doesn't require ATP, but this type 2 topoisomerase it requires ATP or NADH and gyrase. Thermopiles we saw it can survive in the hot climate or hot water because of the positively supercoiling. This DNA denaturation is prevented. Why DNA is a negatively supercoiled? For facilitating the DNA replication transcription, DNA has to underwound, and if it is underwound, it is better for the DNA replication process. So that is why we have negatively supercoiled. So this one is a relaxed negatively single strand we easily we can get, and on this single strand we can synthesize our new DNA. So easy when DNA is a negatively supercoiled. Okay. E. coli has a gyrase which introduces the negative supercoil. So this gyrase is there. The gyrase introduces the negative supercoil. So relaxed DNA we can show if it is relaxed DNA, it will travel up. Highly supercoiled, it will travel very fast down on this agar-agar cell process, for example. If topoisomerase we are treating, so slowly this DNA movement changes. Relaxed, linear, highly supercoiled. So it is going in this direction. Okay. So this topoisomerase, how it changes movement. So okazaki fragments also we are showing here. Okazaki fragments on the DNA. RNase degrades the RNA in the DNA RNA hybrid that we have discussed. Last deoxynucleotide doesn't have hydrogen necessary for hydrolysis state. 5' to 3' its nuclease remove the RNP plus usually a QDNTP. RNA polymerase fills the gap, and DNA ligase leaving the 5' phosphate to the 3' OA only for adjacent base pair or nucleotides. So this one is a 5' to 3' exonuclease. Okay, so this exonuclease action it is removing the RNMP. So this exonuclease basically exonuclease action is removing this RNMP RNA molecules. This one. Then DNA polymerase is again adding the DNTP on this strand. DNA ligase is filling in this gap, and now DNA polymerase can add a DNTP again here, and DNA ligase finally fills the gap in that period. So whenever we say DNA polymerase, so DNA has a different polymerases, subtypes: DNA polymerase 1, DNA polymerase 2, DNA polymerase 4, DNA polymerase 5, DNA polymerase 3, 4 enzyme, DNA polymerase 3, holoenzyme. So polymerase 1 has both 5' to 3' hexanuclease as well as a 3' to 5' hexanuclease activity. Subunit is only one subunit. Processivity is a low 10 to 100, and Okazaki fragment repair can happen with this one. DNA polymerase has a propagating activity 3' to 5'. Processivity is a low, it helps in the DNA repair. DNA polymerase 4 has a very low processivity, it bypasses the repair. Polymerase 5 again low processivity, bypass the repair. Polymerase 3 has a low processivity. And mainly we are having this DNA polymerase 1, 3' to 5' hexanuclease activity. It has it, and then it has a 10 subunit, very high processivity, and it helps in the chromosome replication. DNA polymerase 3 holoenzyme. The DNA holoenzyme is a generic term for the aggregation of the protein that has many enzymes associated with. So holoenzyme means it has a aggregations of the proteins associated with it. 3 copies of the DNA polymerase 4 enzymes can be present whenever we say DNA polymerase is there. So 3 copies can be present there as a DNA polymerase. It's got something called as a sliding clamp loader. So DNA polymerase should have sliding clamp loader. It includes 3 copies. So this tau protein 3 copy has to bind with this one, and then it has a 1 copy delta protein and delta prime. That is a housekeeping function delta prime, and then last component sliding complex component is there. So this one is a structure of the DNA polymerase. So what is structure? So these are the tau subunits. So this one subunit tau, second tau, third tau protein. This one is DNA polymerase 3. This one is DNA polymerase 3. This one is DNA polymerase 3. Likewise this. So these are the components of these enzymes, and these are the sliding clamp. So this one is a sliding clamp, for example. Okay, so this one it looks in the three dimension like this. In Saccharomyces cerevisiae, in E. coli it look like this. Human it look like this. E. coli it like this. So these are the how sliding clamps looks like this. So this DNA is like this. Clamp, for example, and ATP bound this clamp, this structure open up. Here DNA polymerase structure, and now it has opened up. Now DNA can pass through it. Okay. So DNA can pass through here to here, and now this ADP is there. It get converted to ATP. Once it is get converted, so this release from here. So it attached with the DNA polymerase, and it can proceed in the further direction. So how activating of the enzyme happens? DNA polymerase 3 holoenzyme stimulate the DNA helicase. So if we have DNA polymerase at the site of replication, it will stimulate DNA helicase activity. If DNA primase is there, it will also stimulate the DNA helicase activity. Sliding clamp is there, it will stimulate the DNA polymerase 3 processivity. So this is a sliding clamp. This is a primer template junction. This is a DNA polymerase, and this is how it is proceeding. So this basically this structure already we have seen previously 2-3 times we have seen. That is just revision here. Leading strand polymerase, lagging strand polymerase. This is a single stranded binding protein. Helicase is there. Unreplicated DNA is there. Unengaged polymerase. So whenever we say DNA polymerase is present in the replication process. For example, in the eukaryotes, we have basically 3 polymerases here. We don't have a single polymerase. Instead of single polymerase, we have 3 polymerases here. So this one is there, this one is there, and that behind here one is there. Okay, so like this structure is there, and this structure we call as a Thrombone model of the DNA replication. So Thrombone, some of you may be knowing that Thrombone is a like musical equipment. It has a 3 parts like that. So this one is a 3-part model. So 1, 2, 3, these things are there, and this is how this helicase is separating. This DNA is unwinding like this, and then are happening, right? So clamp loading, clamp loading, clamp loading. So at times like this. So on the leading strand 1, and on this lagging strand we have this polymerase, right? Activating in the process area. DNA replication in bacteria versus eukaryote. The replicative DNA polymerase is a polymerase 3-4 unit in the bacteria. DNA polymerase epsilon for the leading unit. DNA polymerase delta for the lagging unit in the eukaryote is. DNA primase, we call it as a DNA G in the E. coli. We call it as a DNA polymerase alpha subunit or the primase in the eukaryote. Sliding clamp, we call it as a beta or DNA capital N in the E. coli, or pCNA we call, so sliding clamp is there, we denote it by the capital pCNA in the eukaryotes. Sliding clamp loader, so this TAW subunit is there. Instead of TAW, we are calling it as a RF-C. So this one is the TAW subunit. So for this TAW subunit, we are giving name here, RF-C here. Okay, and this sliding clamp is there. So this one is a sliding clamp, and this sliding clamp we are giving the name in the eukaryote pCNA. Origin of replication is the physical site where DNA is initially unwound and DNA synthesis is initiated. Origin efficiency, percentage of cell division in which origin initiated determines the origin efficiency. Replicon is all the region of the DNA replicated by the DNA course derived from one origin. So origin generate two replication ports. So already we saw on the right and left direction it is migrating. That is a bidirectional, and this replication process in the opposite direction. Initiator protein recognize the replicator and activate the replication initiation. So number of chromosome. E. coli has one chromosome. Origin of replication is 1. Genome size is 4.6 into 10⁶ base pair. Saccharomyces cerevisiae, number of chromosome are 16. Number of origin is 350. Genome size is 13 into 10⁶. Drosophila, number of chromosome 4. Number of origin 1200 to 20,000. So you can see it is increasing. So greater in Saccharomyces cerevisiae, then again greater in Drosophila, and genome size is 80 10⁻⁶. Human, it may have 30,000 origin of replication. Chromosome are 22 plus XY pair. So genome size is around 300 multiplied by 10⁶ base pair, like this. So origin of replication means cell has to replicate fast. They don't make polymerase grow fast, but make more origin. So for example, we want to replicate our genome. Our genome is very large. So how do we go? Should we go fast, or should we make the more origin of replication? So more efficient way is that this long genome is there, you make replication origin here. So this overall replication will complete faster than just increasing its speed, 1 kilometer to 2 kilometer, like that. You don't increase its speed. Don't add more nucleotides per second. Instead, make many origin of replications. So eukaryotic origin of replication initiates at a characteristic S phase, and initiating can happen at early, intermediate, and late. So this is the origin of replication. Nascent leading strand. So leading strand we call as a nascent leading strand. Okazaki fragments are there. So nascent leading strand, likewise, there are some experimental procedure. We can separate Okazaki fragments and the nascent leading strand. We can align by sequence match to consist genome. So for example, you can sequence these strands, Okazaki fragment or the leading strand, and by sequencing we can get its actual sequence on where in the genome it is binding. Okay, 5' 3' direction and this one. So this is a high throughput data, how it can be done. Terminator, Okazaki fragment is point 5' to 3' away from each other. So sometimes strands can meet with each other. Here, prokaryotic E. coli and eukaryotic yeast. Replicative DNA polymerase in the E. coli is our DNA polymerase 3. And in case of eukaryote, it's the DNA polymerase epsilon lagging subunit, and this one is a DNA polymerase delta for lagging subunit. DNA primase, already we saw this one, right? DNA G for the E. coli, DNA polymerase alpha for eukaryotes, primase for this one, pCNA, RFC we saw, but this we didn't saw. The initiator protein is a DNA A here in E. coli, and origin of replication is a ORC is there. Helicase loader is a DNA C, and helicase loader is a DCDC6 and CDTC. So DNA helicase is the enzyme which unwound the DNA, so it needs loader. So this loader is this 2 protein here and this 1 protein in E. coli. Helicase is a DNA P here, and is MCMC complex. MCM complex. So last lecture we discussed this helicase. MCM complex. So basically this MCM complex is a DNA helicase which unwind this one, these two strands of the DNA. Speed of the replication in E. coli is 4.6 into 10 raised to 6 base pair. It has a one origin and it can go up to 1000 base pair per second. Human chromosome is around 2 into 10 raised to 9 base pair, and average human chromosome go around 1000 base pair per second, and it has many replication origin around 30 kb apart. So and slower performance can have the 100 base pair per second. Time for a human cell replication can be around 8 hours. So this is a helicase load, right? CDC6 somewhere we saw. So this CDC6 we saw here. So this CDC6 we saw here. So this is the helicase loader. So this CDC6 is the helicase loader, and this is a ORC, origin of ORC, initiator protein binds here. ATP is there. This EMCM helicase comes with the DT1. It binds to this DNA. This DNA can form. Now this DNA can be unwounded. So that is a helicase activation, helicase loading in eukaryotic cell happens at the G1 phase. So what is a gap phase during cell cycle? So gap phase, after G1 phase comes the synthetic phase of the cell cycle. So gap phase is a phase in which the helicase get loaded. Helicase get loaded here in the G1 phase, and this helicase loading happens in the G1 phase. Eukaryote helicase activation requires the cyclic dependent kinase and the DBF4 dependent kinase. The recruitment of key protein, CDC45 and genes are direct activator of the helicase. They form the complex called as the CMG complex, where C stand for CDC45, M stand for MCM, that is helicase, G stand for genes proteins. So that is how helicase get activated. So basically it is very nitty-gritty details. You may not be needing this one, but this is how CDK activate this one, and how this CDK activate CLD protein, how this activate this one, and basically now this one is activated. Now we can separate the strands and it will go in the forward direction. So we were talking about one problem called as telomers at the end of the replication. So that is a telomere end problem. So this one is a DNA, and it may get shortened at the end. So this is the telomere shortening can happen. So each replication. So to address that problem, we have human telomere ends. So TTA, GGC. Likewise, these repeats are there. It's repeating. So that is a telomere end repeat is there. DNA polymerase is called as a telomerase for this. So telomerase is basically a DNA polymerase, and telomers are 6 to 16 base pair repeats, and they are direct repeats. The end of the telomers has a 3' OH single stranded DNA extension, and all chromosomes have telomere at the end. So last picture we have seen that telomere has this telomere surface at the DNA. Function of the telomeres, it acts as a novel origin. The telomere protect the chromosome, so it has to protect the chromosome from recombination or degradation. It has to protect it from both means. It is a novel DNA polymerase composed of the multiple protein. It has a RNA molecule which forms the ribonucleoproteins. That is, these ribonucleoproteins can form here on this molecule. So we will see this how it is forming. RNA acts as a template for the telomerase. So this is a template for this telomerase RNA. It has a 1.5x copies of the telomere repeat complement. It's taking the RNA template, reading it, and making the DNA called as a reverse transcriptase. So whenever telomere is there, it is basically adding the RNA, and this RNA, we know that we have to make the chromosome ends. So the chromosomes ends contain the DNA. So RNA template is there, you make RNA template, and then by reverse transcriptase process, this RNA will go and convert itself into the DNA molecule. In the somatic cells, many times this telomerase is turned off because after somatic cells generally divide 15 times, and after that one we want our somatic cell to stop growing. Otherwise, some cancerous growth may be present in this cell. So this one purple color is our telomerase, and these are the telomers being added here. So here it is being added. Again, this AUG sequence is there. So again, it is being added here. So this strands travel again further, and it again add this one. Again, this strand further. So it goes like this. It goes on adding on this strand. Okay, so it will go forward. It will add here. It will make complementary strands. So around 50 times it may happen like that, and that is how the chromosome ends get extended. Telomere binding protein can be there. If fewer are there, the weaker inhibition. If more are there, the stronger inhibition. Okay, so T loop can form like this. So we have comparison. So we say that DNA polymerase, telomerase also has DNA polymerase action. So it requires OH group, both our DNA polymerase as well as telomerase. Both require DNTP, processivity, both are higher. This telomeres produce a single-stranded DNA. It doesn't produce double-stranded DNA, and require that primer template junction for DNA polymerase. Telomerase doesn't require primer template junction. Works on any sequence, this DNA polymerase, and it requires specific sequence. For example, this sequence is needed for the telomerase action. So these are the references. Thank you. So that was our today's lecture, right? So this concludes today's session, right? कोणाला काही अडचण आहे?